Hello, everyone, and welcome to Podtoid. We are your host. I'm CJ.
I'm Occams.
And this is episode 392. And if you thought that introduction sounded a little bit short, you're not crazy. Charlotte, Chris, and Dan are out for the week, leaving just me and Occams. Don't worry, we didn't fire them or anything. Actually, Podtoid's become so popular, we've given them their own spinoff. So look forward to their new podcast, Podtoid Special Victims Unit. It'll feature all the same Podtoid content you love, plus sex crimes and crimes against children. We probably shouldn't be doing this with just two people, right, Occams?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, let me...
unless they want to hear our hour-long conversation on Fuck, Marry, Kill, the Still Magnolias edition.
Oh, Julia Roberts for all three.
Drink your juice, Shelby, is a very erotic phrase.
I think I have someone in mind. Let me call him up real quick. Let me just dial the phone. I have an old phone, so it's rotary. Yeah.
It's like I'm back at Grandma's house.
Exactly. I'm actually at your grandma's house right now.
Oh,
She's
shit.
very naked.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, sounds like Grandma.
I think that's the wrong sound effect. Hello, Wes, you there?
Hello. Yep. This is the sex unit. Go on.
Yes.
What's your crime?
Yeah, this
Not
is
enough sex.
This is where the sex crimes are committed for the other podcast to solve. So
I'm ready to get into some sex crimes, guys. It's going to be great.
That's good. I figured with the three of us on this show, that's all this podcast would become, is just three people committing sex crimes.
But only against each other. I mean, we're not monsters.
Wes, welcome. Thank you for filling in this week.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to not be very funny at all. I'm going to really disappoint some people who've been reading my stuff because. Like if I write an article on the website, I've got 3 weeks to write it so I can review it and make sure it's kind of funny. Here it's on the spot, man. I'm just going to be quiet for the rest of the time. I'll just laugh while you guys talk.
I'll be
your Robin to your Howard Sterns.
I figured that when the three of us finally got on the air together, that it would be hyped up in my mind so much, but then we'd end up like the Lakers when they brought on Dwight Howard and Steve Nash and
oh my God,
and we just dive into the ground.
I had the exact same thought, CJ. Oh my God. Wow.
I'm sober, which is part of the problem too. We shouldn't have done this so early in the morning. Or I should just start drinking earlier in the day.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's much earlier for me than it is for you. I think you guys are already afternoon, so you should already be drinking. It's Sunday after all.
I know. I'm just life and trying to be healthy. It's crazy.
Yeah. Being healthy sucks. I have so much.
It's really, really stupid. Like, why do we do it? We should just be unhealthy. Just eat McDonald's. Drink beer at 12 a.m. That's life. That should be life.
It can be life. It's just a very short life, and you fart constantly.
Dude, I've had such a farty weekend. We can talk about that later, I think. I don't know if you guys want to.
You had a farty life.
Let's get right into farty weekends, actually. Why not? I work in an office in San Francisco, and I would much rather be stuck in an elevator with someone having a farty weekend than some of these scents that come off of these people. Holy Christ. It is like walking into a Bed Bath & Beyond that's on fire, or not a Bed Bath & Beyond, a Bath & Body Works that's on fire getting into some of these elevators. It is just an assault on the sense that a fart would be a nice respite from that.
It's that thing where someone has recently discovered like body spray. So it's like the scent of lavender, but it's the scent of lavender a serial killer would use to cover up like a dead kid in the trunk of his car. It's just, yeah.
So at my work, we have a YMCA in our building on the 4th floor. So I get to go over lunch and work out. It's really convenient. But all the type A, like pronoun using douchebag sales guys, they also go there. And they're all like in their mid 30s, but they still use Axe body spray as though they're 13 in a locker room. It is insane the amount of Axe body spray that these men still use.
When I was in a fraternity back in college, we got a giant, and I'm talking about like a 2 feet by 1 foot by 1 foot box of little Axe body spray sample travel sizes. And none of us wanted to use these because, it's Axe. It smells like shit. But there was one brother who's like, you know what? I'll take the whole box. And my God, did he go through that box?
In about a week.
And I'd just like to say this episode is sponsored by Axe Body Spray.
Axe body spray for when you want people to run away from you.
The body spray that doubles as a contraceptive.
He would spray that on in lieu of like showering or washing his clothes. He was that disgusting of a
don't be that guy.
Shower in a can.
Don't be the human smell test. No one likes that.
Yeah, and this was like Humboldt County, which is in Northern California, which is known for weed. So like he managed to smell worse than the people who do nothing but, you know, smoke peyote all day and have white guys with braids and tie-dye. He somehow managed to find a way to smell worse than them.
Oh, that is the worst.
We really need to make this podcast smell-o-vision. Oh, that would be great.
Your roommate covered in Axe body spray. What a world.
Yeah, it was awful. So I guess now that we're all three here, let's sort of kick off the show. And I thought we'd kick it off the same way we did last week in New York, where a woman is suing a local store after she says the business made her home uninhabitable. The store is a sex shop, and the reason the woman says her home is uninhabitable is because of a massive sewage backup due to a wall of condoms. The woman claims the condoms, as well as rubber gloves and diapers, have been flushed down into the sewer, creating a massive blockage that sent shit into her basement that she had recently finished. She says she's had to flee her house on multiple occasions, and the story says she's suing the business for $2 million. The name of the business is Sexy Boutique, which I thought was the least imaginative name you could have for your sex shop. But then I realized if you're going to be some boring person Googling where to get some lingerie, you'd probably type in Sexy Boutique.
Yeah.
Like that is the most white bread version of Google. That's some great SEO right there. They haven't responded, but a wall of condoms.
It's like all I'm thinking is like the sex version of the Wall of Sound from Richard Spector.
I was thinking that a wall of condoms is what Rob Gronkowski has built around his house. Just a wall of condoms.
Oh my God. CJ, you and I are on the same page today.
We're going to put that at the southern border, and I think that will help prevent the migration. Man,
I think you mean the invasion.
Yeah, the infestation. Gosh,
guys,
there are a lot
let's get real. Okay, let's talk about it.
No, what grosses me out about this is not the condoms, but it's the fact that they have a bunch of diapers and rubber gloves coming from this boutique. What is going on in there?
Well, I get that. Okay, so wall of condoms, sure. I'm still not what a wall of condoms is. And my God, it's just maybe my brain today and I haven't slept enough. But all I'm thinking is like wall of sound. But then there's the magic cards of like wall of fire, wall of swords. And then there's like X-rated magic card, wall of condoms.
I'm picturing a thwomp from Mario Brothers just made of condoms. Just
nice. I like used condoms, though.
Yes, of course, used condoms.
I can get the rubber gloves because maybe they're doing like demonstrations on how to, do whatever, how to punch your partner's ticket or, all that stuff. And you need rubber gloves and blah, blah, blah to show lube application, whatever. The diaper thing, I feel like that's a very, like, either someone has a lot of children that hang out in the back of the sex shop, kind of, bodega style, or like, I don't know, maybe there's just a very specialized fetish in that shop.
I'm trying to figure out how the wall of condoms somehow backed up the toilets, though, because if it's a wall of condoms, it's on the wall, right? Like they're not being used.
Like just they're being flushed down in the toilet and blocking up the sewage. Because
that would be more like a lump of condoms, or perhaps a blob. I don't know. What do you call a big rubbery wet mass?
A murder of condoms.
A murder of condoms.
Occam's grandma right now.
Yeah, definitely. You know what's the most amazing? I haven't seen her in like 25 years, so please give her my kindest regards.
I will, and actually, I can send you a picture of her. I don't think you'll enjoy it, but I can send you a picture of her.
Oh, sir, you don't know me that well, then.
He will enjoy it.
I will say, if there are like just kids having their diapers changed in the back of a sex shop that also has a bunch of condoms going into the sewage, that probably sounds like a job for a Podtoid Special Victims Unit.
Oh, we should pass this off to them.
Yeah. That we'll let them take this off on their debut episode. So that was just the story I want to start us off for this week. So just wall of condoms.
I think we've got our title for this episode.
Wall of condoms.
Wall of condoms.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think that is
like a really, really progressive but ultimately failed attempt by like Planned Parenthood to kind of hip it up a little bit.
A wall of condoms definitely. Well, no, you wouldn't want. I was going to say a wall of condoms would be a great marketing ploy if you cross over with Game of Thrones, but then they break through the wall. So really, that's a terrible, terrible marketing ploy.
Your Nike shoes of condoms.
All right, let's go ahead and get talking into games. Talking into games. What the fuck? Talking about games. I'll go ahead and start us off. This past week, I finally got to put up my review of ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove. I gave it a 9.5. I really like this game. And it was interesting because I really didn't care for it when I played it at PAX. As I said, PAX was an event that I'm playing, 10, 15 games over the course of 3 to 4 days, and nothing's really going to stick that hard with me, especially something like this, which is so low key, just so chill. That's really something you just have to buy and play on its own to see how it is. It's bright, it's colorful, it has wonderful fucking music. The music is so great, and the end song that you get when you reach Planet Funkatron, for one of the endings, there are several endings to this game. It's just such a dope early 90s rap with ToeJam and Earl. They did such a good job on this game. So I really liked it. I think I was one of the highest scores, not to, toot my own horn or anything. But the one thing I found interesting was reading other people's reviews who didn't like it so much. And I'm not going to argue that they're wrong in saying, giving the game a low score because they didn't like it. That's fine. But what's weird is the reasoning that comes up. When people look at a game like this and they're like, well, it has old controls, it has old gameplay, it's dated. And I'm just thinking, there's really nothing else like this on the market. There's nothing that no one took the ToeJam and Earl concept from the early 90s and advanced on it that much. That this is now, there's not something newer that this can strive to be back, or that's fallen back to. It's kind of just they're doing what they did before when it was so successful. People have the strong memories of the first game and the second game, not really the third game. So, I mean, it's weird how reviewers and publications will pick and choose what is dated and what is not.
I feel like that happens a lot, and it really comes down to whoever the reviewer is, and what their speed is with it. I feel the same way. Like there are certain fighting game mechanics that I always found to be kind of like, yeah, this would be fun to see come back, and all, like the Bloody Roar with like the transformations. Yeah, I don't know if you would count that I would count that as a mechanic, but maybe that's evolved into some sort of different kind of iteration now. But then I would think about stuff like, for me, I would love to see point and click adventure games come back. Now that's more on a console level. I know they're sort of around. I think Deponia is one, and there've been a couple, but I would love FMV games. I'm just sort of rambling on games I want to make a comeback now, but it's. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it, man. Like for dated stuff, especially. Like I find games to be incredibly obtuse these days, and when a game has like an hour and a half long introduction, I get really frustrated because I usually don't have like an hour and a half to sit down and learn a game just to then try to apply that knowledge to fun. So just with dated mechanics, when I don't know, it's simpler, I guess is kind of how I equate it to. So. I mean, that sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. And then the other thing I found weird was that a few reviewers were reviewing this as if it was similar to, let's say, the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games or Rogue, like an actual RPG roguelike, and them saying, people who are fans of Mystery Dungeon or roguelike games aren't going to like this. And I'm just thinking, yeah, duh, this is not really like those games. It's weird to me because this is just such a unique product that it's weird. I would never compare it to something even similar because it's very much its own thing.
Do you think age has something to do with it? Like, is it going to appeal to people who weren't around in the 90s? Are they going to get like kind of the vibe of it and kind of not what it's making fun of, but kind of mimicking in its style or what?
That's a really good question because the music and the style of the game is really, really tied to the early 90s, late 80s hip hop culture. But a lot of the references made in it are current. One of the enemies, the Earthlings, that you'll come across in the game is an internet troll who is weaker the closer you get to him.
That's awesome.
It's such a brilliant idea, and it's something that's so current, but that is actually a good question. I am not sure that people who really aren't fully up on hip hop culture or early 90s culture will be as into it. I don't think the gameplay itself would exclude anyone because they're younger, but I didn't really think about that. That is an interesting question, Wes.
It's for me. It's
also, this is the wrong show to ask interesting questions on. Save it for a better show.
Yeah, I guess we need to talk about farts some more.
Yeah,
but the idea of growing up, like I watched a lot of television, shockingly, but like I watched It's a Different World. A Different World. Remember that show?
A Different World.
Yeah.
Is that Melissa Milano?
No. That's with Sinbad and Freddie, who was the artsy one, and oh my god.
Oh no, you've completely lost me.
I remember the intro.
Yeah, It's a Different World because Aretha Franklin sang it. It was the one Dwayne Wayne. It was a sitcom set at historically black university, and like so I'm like 12. This little 12-year-old white boy from the suburbs watching this, and that was like kind of an interesting, eye-opening experience to me because they had the race episode where Dean Cain spray painted the N-word on Dwayne's buddy's car, Ron's car. Like, it was an interesting thing. But I guess
that's a documentary.
Well, shit, depends on who you ask. But sort of like growing up watching that kind of stuff to play games like ToeJam and Earl and understand sort of a lot of where those references come from. I think it adds an element to the game that you will appreciate, like as an experience versus an imitation. Where, say, if you were born in the '90s and all of this is like something you picked up from your older brother or your parents or whatever. So I think it does bring an interesting point. But let's get back to farts. Fart talk. Let's go.
Yes. Sorry, guys. Sorry to derail our fart conversation here.
Farts.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Amen.
I'm pretty sure they one of the characters will fart in an elevator during a transition scene in ToeJam and Earl. So that is my contribution.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
There is belching, though. There's a lot of belching. You can eat, I think, a chili dog, and they will just either belch. And it's really great to watch also the characters throw up because one of the strengths that ToeJam has is that he will eat anything. And if other people eat the stuff that he eats, they will throw up on the game. So
nice. Remember Booger Man?
I do remember Booger Man.
I have a copy of that.
Yeah,
really?
That needs to make a comeback.
It is a pick and flick adventure. I sure do.
You son of a bitch. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
It is great.
That's what I've been playing this week. I'm also working on Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn, which I'll talk about next week. It is the changes they made for that are quite interesting. But Wes, let's go to you. Has there been anything you've been playing this week you want to talk about?
Yes. I mentioned a few minutes ago how I don't have time to sit down and just even learn the mechanics of a game for a full hour before they expect me to try to have fun with that knowledge. I fired up about an hour and a half of Anthem, and it's such a weird game. It's so very like video game to a T, where they introduce like this really cool world, and they're like, yeah, all this lore and all this backstory, and oh shit, look at these big things you have to blow up, and then it's like, all right, now press X to jump, and it's such a strange experience that they have all these like cool things and ideas that go into it, but then at the end of the day, you're just shooting bugs and collecting new guns for some reason because these bugs dropped guns, and it's kind of fun in a way because it's really satisfying, but then it's also. It just feels like it'll be a massive time sink without a whole lot of payoff at the end of the day. And that's usually why I avoid those types of games, those types of MMO lights and kind of multiplayer focused shooters, just because, again, I don't have 100 hours to put into it over the next month before everyone gets bored and moves on. But spent about an hour with that. And I don't know. I don't know if I like it. That's all I got.
That's I think what I've heard a lot from people is they keep playing it and it's not quite reached the point that they like it, but they have hope that they eventually will, or they'll put enough time into it that they'll just convince themselves they did.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm this far in, might as well keep playing it.
It's the Destiny syndrome all over again. Like I will bet you $5 American in a year from now, Anthem will be what we all wish it had been when it came out. And even then, it'll still probably be lacking some of, just the quality of life stuff that would be like, no shit, should be in it to begin with. But I'm looking forward to playing it still. Is that just Iron Man sim flying around?
Yeah.
But I feel the more and more I hear about it, especially now that it's out and people are getting some time with it, the more and more I'm pushing it back on my Gamefly queue, because I feel like I will benefit greatly from giving it 6 months to a year to flesh out and figure out what works and what doesn't.
That sounds about right. It's so jarring, man, because like you're in this awesome suit and you're flying around, you're shooting shit, and it's pretty fun. And then you get back to the hub world and it's in first person, and you move with like just the slowness of like molasses. It's just the slowest fucking first person movement of all time. You don't get anywhere. It's so strange because it's you get all your missions and shit from the hub world, and it's just so bad. It is so bad, so not fun to play at all. It's strange, man.
The more and more I hear about like Destiny and then I guess Anthem and other games that have a hub world, I think the more time people spend like in the combat and stuff, like when they're developing these games, they kind of forget about the hub world. So it's sort of just like utilitarian, but they forget that that's a huge part of the enjoyment of the game. Like the combat and the missions are fun and that's progress, but like the hub world is where they give you a reason to care about what you're doing. And I feel like they should really spend more time developing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty clear that it was, they're like, oh shit, we got to make a hub world. First person, just slap some NPCs in there. Call it a day, guys. And then, it'll probably be better in about a year. At launch, it's pretty terrible. It's real bad.
I think it's got a better chance of being better in a year than, say, Fallout 76 does.
Yeah.
Fallout keeps getting worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, they keep introducing new bugs.
That's the gift that keeps on giving, man. I don't really have a horse in the race. I just love it that like every time there's a news story about it, it's about something getting exponentially worse than it was. Or something that really should be getting better.
It's one of those things where I keep waiting for some story to come out like new bug makes everyone have blackface and just like, okay, yeah, sure. Sounds about right.
Dude, I live in Virginia. That's my life.
Yeah, that's true. That is your entire state.
Gosh, don't look at my yearbook in 30 years, guys.
Oh,
bad.
Occams, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I finally polished off Far Cry New Dawn, and that was fine. Kind of a dumb final boss fight, but whatever. And now I'm playing Metro Exodus, and that's fun. I really like the Metro games. Mm-hmm. They just do the most incredible job with world building. Like in the first two games, you're sort of trapped in the metro tunnels and then in caves and stuff. But there was a really great sense of the world felt lived in and sort of developed, and there was a lot of like sadness, but there was a lot of like hope and kind of community level because these people really had to come together to sort of scrape out a meager existence. And there were flaws and stuff in the game, mechanics, stealth, blah, but I don't care about any of that. I just want a good story and to have fun. So this one, it's open world now, and I really enjoy it, and a lot of it takes place on a train, like in terms of movements. And I love trains. I love a good train story. Strangers on a Train, it's a good movie. But I'm really enjoying it so far. I think the only complaint I have is that the actual movement of your character can feel a little clunky. Like just sort of, he feels very heavy, and it's hard to get him to move faster than I would like him to. But I'm playing on easy and just sort of enjoying the world, and it's gorgeous, and it's horrifying and creepy at parts, and it's very very pleasant. So yeah, so far so good. I think after this it'll be Devil May Cry, and that'll be a great turn off your brain and kind of laugh at the video game equivalent of a 80s 90s shredding guitar solo for 30 hours or whatever. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's pretty, and I think if you want to see that kind of built up world, it's a great game to play for that. I would definitely give it a shot on that level.
How are the mechanics from the more claustrophobic first two games, especially having to have a limited supply of ammo? How are those translating for you to the more open world design of the stages? Because that was my big question mark coming off the preview I did for this game, was how are those going to translate?
I caught myself last night, so shooting at some mutant people things, and I realized, dude, you don't have to kill everything you see. like I know you're playing on easy, and there's relatively easy to kill stuff, but your ammo is still very limited even on easy. I've got 90 bullets for my submachine gun, and you can kind of kit it out to where it has a scope and a longer barrel, so it's kind of a quasi sniper rifle, quasi submachine gun. But even then, it's like I don't have to kill everything, and it's a lot smarter, like to play stealth and to go through, and you can either murder, like stab or knock out everyone, but I have a lot of fun. Like you sneak up on somebody and then you stab this guy like 15 times in the neck. It's so ridiculous. It's like take him down, blah 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 blah. It's like a prison shiv, And
that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in the Chappelle Show, that one thing where they stab the guy's dad. It's an interesting kind of moment where if you kill enough people, like in a bandit camp, and I love killing bandits because I hate bandits and just in general. And they'll talk about being slavers. I'm like, I'm gonna murder all of you. But some of them will give up. They'll follow their knees to put their hands over their head and they say, I give up, please don't kill me. And it's a kind of interesting moment to be like, do I want to kill them? Or do I just knock them out or I leave them be? And I usually end up just knocking them out. But I thought it was kind of a really interesting way to sort of abruptly change the feel of the game instead of just being this like horrible murder monster. Which is fun. But yeah, I'm still finding like I use the throwing knives a lot because they're usually a one-hit kill on the bandits and the people. And you have to be a little more conservative. And you have that pneumatic gun that shoots like BBs but can murder. Yeah. I fucking hate that gun so much because you have to like you get like 4 or 5 like quality like bullet damage level shots. And then it's you're essentially just throwing pebbles at somebody. So that's just kind of a carryover. I get like the whole idea behind it, but I stick to the shotgun or the semi-automatic rifle.
I apologize for that little sound there. My Switch collection just fell off my desk.
Oh, I thought someone was trying to escape.
R.I.P.
How far into the game are you?
Oh, I'm like probably about 4 hours in, but I'm still in the first, like once you get the train, you're in this swamp area. Mm-hmm. It's not really a spoiler, but and I'm doing swamp area stuff. Though I just finished that up. I haven't headed to the new area yet. I'm like Wes, and then I have these hour and a half chunks to play. Mm-hmm. So I'm it's a slow going process versus like me in college where there were 9 hours a day to play video games because I wasn't doing much. But it's fun.
You are listening to Podtoid.
Okay, so that is it for games. We have plenty of headlines to cover. Actually, we just have 2. It is time for the news. And actually, before we get to the news, I have a very special announcement to make. Podtoid has been back for about 2 months now, and our listenership is slowly rising, but it's not anywhere near where it used to be. So I was brainstorming this week on some ideas on how to increase downloads on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play, when it dawned on me that we should host an AMA. These have been really popular in the past, and anyone can put them on, so I'm really happy to announce right now that the Podtoid crew will be holding an AMA this Saturday on an obscure little website called Jews Are Responsible for AIDS and Jared Fogel's Innocent.com. They sent me a very nice email asking us to do the AMA. Let me just read it for you right now. Let's see here. Swastika, 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 swastika. Picture Jared Fogel holding a footlong swastika. Jared Fogel with a hand on a young girl's shoulder. Swastika, swastika. Oh, here we go. Please do AMA on site or we kill you. Now, isn't that just nice?
Oh, that's sweet. It's really funny you mentioned that. That's where I uploaded all of my like college writings. That's so funny. Oh my God. What a small world.
A lot of college writings about Jared Fogel before he became the Subway spokesperson.
Yeah.
He's just misunderstood, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you have a mentor like him, it's hard not to separate out kind of the man from his actions because they're, and his actions are selling delicious sandwiches, and that's it.
Seriously, like that is his job. Who cares what or who or how many years they have? He does on the weekend. I'm disgusted by the whole thing, frankly.
Guys, I'll tell you what I told my uncle when he opened the door the first time. What happens in the bedroom stays in the bedroom.
Sounds like another episode for Podtoid Special Victims Unit. But see, isn't that just a nice idea for an AMA? And as we learned from THQ Nordic this week, no bad can come from doing an AMA. If you missed it because the news today moves at the speed of light, a PR rep from THQ Nordic held an AMA on the website 8chan last week. If you don't know what 8chan is, you're probably the PR rep from THQ Nordic. It did not go over well. Shockingly, a site known for racism, Gamergate, and child porn doesn't make for positive optics when it comes to your company. It's not a good look, and the apology afterward was, I don't know, not convincing at all in the slightest. The move was condemned right after people were able to confirm it was actually THQ doing it, and it was. There was a blog the other day, I think it was on Gama Sutra, asking if we should constantly remind THQ Nordic about this blunder. And like the immediate reaction is, yes, never stop bringing this up. But then I think about it, it's probably more for me going to become like Luke Bernard, the creator of Eternity's Child, who threw a hissy fit after Destructoid gave his game a shit review because it was a shit game. Like, I'm sure he's grown since then, but that's always the first thing that's on my mind when I think about it.
Sure. You know, what I think the only good thing, well, one of the good things to come out of this is that at least they, THQ Nordic will not be, giving in to the social justice warriors and the political pussies of the world. So we've confirmed that at least. Yeah,
I'm so glad they're standing up for the people, the people that get out there, hit the pavements, buy tiki torches, go protest the oldest colleges in America. And they're standing up for, not people like me or anybody I want to associate with, but, people.
Well, the people with yearbooks you don't want to look at.
Guys, the white male is under threat right now. We need to address this. Our culture is being erased by an insidious force invading every day.
Kardashians?
Oh, God. No, that's a whole different y'all. I could get so drunk and talk shit about that. Oh, my God. I fucking hate the Kardashians so much. It's just... I'm a man of peace, but if they all died in a plane wreck, like I wouldn't feel anything. Oh, I would just go eat a donut and just be, it would just, ugh. Fucking.
Yeah, that was just fucking dumb this week. I think that was Monday. That was a terrible way to start this week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. They kept saying it in the comment section on Dtoid, but I love how THQ Nordic just really embraced the hashtag Darksiders joke that we've been spamming on Dtoid for all these years, and really, really just said fuck it, this is us now. They hashtag Darksiders us, and I respect that. If you're gonna go out in style,
Yeah,
we were talking about this earlier in the week, but it's one of those things to where they I don't believe for a second the guy didn't know what he was doing when he did that, and I think maybe it was going to be some kind of edgy publicity. And it clearly one of those ideas, like this is great on paper, and then you do it, it's like, nope. Like, I'm going to make glue and googly eyes to my dick. Great idea on paper. In practice, in reality, bad idea. You know what I mean? It's one of those.
Can I give you a quick aside of a story? Because that reminds me, I was thinking about this earlier. I had a nickname for about a month and a half in high school. It was after Warped Tour. So I'd gone to Warped Tour, and everybody. Hold on, just let me tell the story. It's a good story.
All stories should start with after Warped Tour, by the way.
So anyway, it was after Warped Tour, and you're 13, 14 or whatever. Everyone's got like spiky hair and different colors. You're like, oh man, being like young and free of rules in society is great. So I got a dye kit from one of my friends because her mom was like a hair stylist. And so I tried to dye my pubes green. But then the dye leaked down from the pube hair area down, how do I put this medically? My dick. And so I got the nickname of Pickle Dick for about a month and a half in high school because of this.
Boy, it's really a shame that you couldn't have like the Incredible Dick.
No, it was the inedible dick, I think, was the byline on that one.
Well, okay, real quick.
Now I've seen Wes's dick, and I'm just picturing it green right now. So
I've seen the drawings, so I'm doing the same. Why green?
I don't know, because
is it like the most anarchist color?
I think so, man. I think when you see like red hair, it's like, oh, okay, well, it could be even more of a ginger freak than the normal ones. You see like blue, and it's like, okay, well, his stepdad's not around. But green is like, hey, green is this guy's really punk. Like you're really going to stick it to society then.
Well, I would go green and then make the tip of my urethra talk to say, why so serious?
Do you want to know how I got all these scars?
Also, I can make a pencil disappear, but it's into a different part of my body.
I would also like to state, for full disclosure, you said you were around 13, 14 when you went to Warped Tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in my 20s when I went to college, so it's okay. You're in good company, my friend.
Okay.
Actually, the last Warped Tour I went to, I knew I didn't need to ever go again because it was me and some kid's dad at the beer tent drinking, and we both just kind of looked at each other like, what the fuck are we doing here?
And that was in college, you said?
Yeah, that was in college.
Seeing dads in college is weird. There was one year in my fraternity, we went to another college up in Oregon to go to our brother houses up there. And it was their dad's weekend. And so it was all these frat guys with their dads and not their moms. And they were having a big party. And I remember this vividly because this is when I was going to college and also working a full-time job. So I was out by like 9 p.m. But when we got there, I just passed right out. But there was a night that we were all in the basement of the frat house, and the dads were kind of like dancing with the undergrads, and like these were 40-year-old guys with like 18-year-old girls. And I remember vividly, this will never leave my mind, that one of the dads who fucking looked like the dad from Still Standing, who you might know as Robert Baratheon from Game of Thrones, he stuck his hand under the girl's skirt, pulled it out, and she was she wasn't like fighting or running away or anything. Pulled it out and smelled his hand.
Yes, I was hoping that's where that would go.
Grossest thing I have ever seen up until that point.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow. I hope you spoke with a therapist after that.
I should have, because it was just awful, and that is very clear. That is the image I see when I wake up in a cold sweat.
The second you started that story, I knew it wasn't going anywhere pleasant.
The next morning when I woke up, there was a very attractive fraternity guy and his very attractive father standing above me. I'm like, oh man, I've seen where this video goes. It did not go there.
And they both took turns sucking your dick, right?
No, they just left.
Oh, that's rude.
Yeah.
And you know what? The best part about that story is that the father who grease palmed the co-ed.
Mm-hmm.
Is never washed his hand. Yeah, it's a real interesting bouquet.
Like he's David Duchovny from Zoolander.
I love the idea, especially for like young parents. So the dad's in his like 40s or 50s, they are still just as horrible and horny and perverted as they were when they made you. For like anyone with young parents, that's great. That is horrific and wonderful. Thank you for telling that story. It has literally made my day. It really has. I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to tell that story now, giving you credit, of course. But I'm going to share it with people just to fucking ruin their shit.
I've always wondered, what do you do if you're the son and you saw that? Like, especially if your parents are still married.
I'm going to tell you what you do. You're going to go home. You're going to have sex with your co-ed girlfriend. And the moment when you feel that little lightning bolt start to pop off at the base of your cock, that's the thought that happens. That image pops into your mind, and you can't stop it because nature's taking its course. And as your butthole tightens and you're shooting off, you're trying to mentally figure out, am I okay with this? Am I not okay with this? And then eventually what happens is every time you orgasm, that same thought pops in. 25 years later, you are your father.
Gosh, it's like an Oedipal complex mixed with like 3 other things. I love it.
Oh, shit.
I love
it. So yeah, THQ Nordic.
Oh, is that what we were talking about?
The other big story of the week, just segue back into normal stuff, has to do with the Nintendo Switch. Pokemon Company and Nintendo lifted the curtain on Pokemon Sword and Shield earlier this week. These are the next generation Pokemon games coming to Switch this fall or winter. Not sure exactly when they're going to hit. My first thought when I saw the map was it looked like Westeros, although I've heard a lot of people say Scotland, and I think Westeros may be based off of Scotland, so who knows. That's coming this fall alongside the new Animal Crossing Switch game, Luigi's Mansion 3, Link's Awakening remake, and God knows what else, because starting today, Sunday, we're officially in the 3rd year of the Nintendo Switch. It's celebrating its 2nd anniversary. Occams, you don't have one, and I know you don't care about Pokemon. And as we learned a few weeks ago, you also don't care about Legend of Zelda. But Wes, you do have a Switch, right?
I sure do.
All right,
My
so
roommate's
real
playing
quick.
it right next to me as we speak, actually.
All right, CJ, you don't have to make it sound like I'm like being cool about not having that or Karen. It never entered my purview, you know?
Sure. I'm sure you showed me the T-shirt that says "I don't like Legend of Zelda" that you wear everywhere. So,
guys, did I mention I don't have a television? Did I mention that I don't have a television? I just want to point out I don't have a TV. I want everyone in the room to know I don't have a television.
He's also vegan, atheist, and does CrossFit. All these things go hand in hand. It's crazy.
Have y'all explored libertarianism? Let me tell you about it.
Imagine if you didn't care about anyone. That's libertarianism.
I got to tell this story. I know we're never going to talk about video games, but I don't care. There's a place nearby. It's called All Around Pizza. It's a pizza place. But you go in there and they've got a sign up front that says anyone open carrying gets 15% off their order. And we call it Ron Paul Pizza because it's plastered with Ron Paul 2012 campaign propaganda. And I love it. So Ron Paul Pizza. Go on. I'm sorry.
No, I kind of want to. How's the pizza?
It's actually really, really good. And they've got like a weird craft beer like fridge that you can just go and grab a beer from. It's totally illegal in Virginia. But they break a lot of rules there, man. That's a libertarian way. It's just a little creepy when you go in because it's like 300 bikers, a couple of like, progressive college dads, but not really progressive. Like they're okay with gay people finally. But, anything above that, it's just like, whoa, all right. It took me this long to get here. But they get 15% off their order, man.
It's kind of worth it. It's like a AARP discount that also kills people.
that Glock will pay for itself eventually in pizza.
Seriously, dude. Like the amount of, what's a gun? Like $300? You save that easily in like 30 trips to Ron Paul Pizza. Dude,
my dad has a gun that he got in the 70s from my mom when she was traveling to visit her father and had to country back roads. And he still has it. It's an old 38 Saturday Night Special. And I told him they updated their will and I want it. Because I don't want a gun. It's fucking ugh. The guns are heavy and they're loud and I don't like them. But I want to take the trigger, the actual piece, the trigger out, and just have it like as a paperweight, like art object.
Ooh.
Yeah. I know, and that's, by the way, today the whitest thing people will tell you. Go ahead.
That's up there, man.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh shit! My dad has a handgun and a rifle, and he was storing the rifle under the guest bed when I went to visit him one year, and he told me it was under there. And then that night I had a dream that my dad and my uncle tried to teach me about gun safety, or about the need to have a gun by pretending to be robbers robbing the house, and ended up killing them both. And then I told him about that dream, and he moved the gun down to his bed. Hey, Dad, guess what I dreamed about last night? Blowing your head off.
How about that Switch?
Yeah, so about that Switch. Yeah, wow, Nintendo Switch, yeah. I was just going to ask Wes if you have any kind of thoughts on it as it goes into its third year. How have you been enjoying it?
It's really great because I find myself like, especially when there's an option, because I've had a PlayStation 4 for a while and I recently got a dumpster Xbox One. Mm-hmm. Now I've got like all the modern consoles and it's crazy. And I'm not going to play anything on my Xbox because nobody plays anything on Xbox. So that's kind of out of the equation. But I find when there's like a choice between Switch and PS4, at first I was like, man, I'll just stick with my PlayStation because I like my PlayStation, whatever. And now I just find myself like, well, shit, if I want to play in the toilet, I can either move the TV down the hall again and just shit with the door open, or I can just get it on Switch and just kind of take it with me wherever I go. And now that they're coming out with even more ports, because like the Resident Evil ports and, everything's going to end up on there eventually.
Yeah.
It's kind of becoming my go-to just because I can play it in the living room and just still hang out with my roommates and not really be as antisocial as I would be if I were in my room with my PlayStation. Apart from that, like the first party stuff doesn't excite me too much. Like I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, and with the reveal of the new ones, it just kind of looks like more of the same Pokemon.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really do a whole lot for me because now there's like 800 of monsters and I don't know any but like the first 12 or 13 of them. If it wasn't in Pokemon Snap, I don't know it apart from that dumbass key ring. But and like Zelda, I'm with Occams. I don't really love Zelda. Mario Odyssey was great, but like those kinds of games I'm excited for, and kind of the off the chart stuff. They're major first party hitters. I don't particularly love, which I think I'm in the minority of Switch owners, especially somebody who bought it day one,
Yeah. For me, this is the first, because I've always been a Nintendo console first person since the GameCube. Like I've always gone Nintendo first before buying any other console. And actually, right now, with my PlayStation 4, this is the first time I've owned more than one current generation console at the same time. Nice. This is the first time that I've really felt like I don't have to convince myself that it's okay that I'm missing out, because the games that I want to play, I'm no longer missing out on. You know, besides the indie titles that are coming to it, like this is a fucking system that runs Skyrim, it runs Doom, it's going to run the new Doom, it's going to run, it runs Wolfenstein, it's going to run the new Wolfenstein. Like these are the games that I actually want to play. I'm not really into open world titles, so I don't give a shit about Witcher or Saints Row or, you know, any Cyberpunk 2077. I don't care about those, but like this thing can run Doom, perfect. I can take it anywhere I want. Perfect. I don't think, and I know I've said this before, I think I've said this on the show before, I don't think I can go back to a television-only console after the Switch. Like the next Nintendo Switch, whatever follows this up, has to do the same thing. It has to be a hybrid.
So long as they don't call it the Switch U.
Oh, God, yeah.
See, and I think that's such an interesting statement to make, and that you won't be able to go back to a television-only console.
Yeah.
And that's something like if I could take my PlayStation experience, like if I could take Metro with me and take it on the go, you know, and your mileage is going to vary depending if you have a commute, what your sort of outdoor world looks like in terms of leaving the house and all. I find that fascinating, and it's something I really like. I really, that's one of the reasons I want to get a Switch eventually. Is because to be able to kind of on the go with it, but that it's changed your view that much is it's fascinating to me as someone who's maybe kind of sitting on the other side of the fence with it. There's always been when you play games, you play them at home.
Yeah.
Like even when I had a 3DS was like an airplane thing for me. It was rarely anything else, or like a car ride.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Is that this is the first time that a console has adequately fit into my lifestyle since the Wii. Like the Wii, I had a lot of free time on my hands. I worked the news. I didn't write for Destructoid yet, so I could play that, go home or go to work, then go home and play, you know, whatever Wii game I had. And I owned a shit ton of those. But as time has gone on, since I've been writing for Destructoid and since I've been also working full-time jobs in tandem with that, you know, I've just had less and less time for gaming, which is why last generation, I really leaned hard into my 3DS, which is why I still write glowingly about it, because I still really like my 3DS. But now that I have Switch, and now that it's turned out to be nearly everything I wanted it to be, I realize that this has to, for me, this has to be the path forward for, if not Nintendo, one of the consoles. One of the consoles is going to have to give me the option to play on a TV or on its own little device for me to continue gaming, because I don't see myself getting more time to sit down at a TV and you know, dedicate 90 hours to playing fucking Xenoblade Chronicles 4 or whatever comes out then. Like it's only going to be less free time going forward for me.
Do you see the others doing that? Because I know we're probably an E3 away from PS5 and Xbox 720 or whatever the hell they call it. Do you see this happening?
With PlayStation, no. With Xbox, yes. I don't think Xbox is going to release their own Switch-like system. I think they are going to lean hard into getting that Xbox Anywhere program up and running, that you can play your Xbox games on your Xbox, on your PC, or on your smartphone. And also apparently Switch, if that turns out to be true. Yes, Xbox I think is more likely to do it than Sony. I think Sony may be kind of skittish after the failure of the Vita.
The Vita was kind of them shooting themselves in the foot, though, man.
Yeah,
like I have it and I still play it. It's definitely my favorite handheld. As somebody who doesn't play handhelds, because I don't have like train or bus commutes. I drive everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not like I play a lot of, like the 3DS never appealed to me because I play at home. You know. But the Vita is such a great machine. Like Sony they definitely didn't put the resources into that to make it as successful as it probably should have been. So that's kind of on them. But I just see like the success with the Switch, and just I know it's slightly reduced power, which Sony is totally against because they love touting having all this processing power and how powerful their systems are. But just the portability of it, man. I don't even use the portability that much. I take it literally from my room to the living room, and that's like 90% of how I use it. It's to the fact I've used my Switch docked approximately 2 times. So I've played it on my TV twice because I'm usually just playing, on the couch while we're watching TV or something like that. It seems like it's too successful for Sony to not be like, hey, we want in on that too. Because that's kind of what Sony does, They did it with Move. They did it with, that's the only example I have with Vita, really. I mean, just portability,
See, I think, and I disagree with you on that, you son of a bitch, and I'll tell you why. It's one of those things.
Kill you, then kiss you.
I love it when you talk dirty. It just, oh my God, it just curls my toes.
All right.
I feel like, so Switch has gotten the handheld docking to take it anywhere thing down. I think that Nintendo has figured out the next great thing, and they're gonna run the game. This is me. Like, I got no professional shit in this. You guys know more than I do. I'm just like a guy who plays video games. I read the news and go, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. I think Microsoft jumping on board with that is brilliant. I think that if they can get their games onto Nintendo's, that's a foothold into Japan. I think that's a lot more people who get their eyes on their games that are not going to buy an Xbox. Brilliant. I see Sony, and this could work really well or not. And I say that as somebody who adores this PlayStation 4, but understands that shit needs to grow and change. That if they're going to keep doing the same thing they're doing, they got to put all their money into the games. It's got to be, we need more Gods of Wars, more Spider-Man's, Last of Us, all that, those kind of experiences to keep the PlayStation relevant, especially in a world where people are taking all their shit on the go. Like, you need a reason to sit down and put in the 30 hours on a TV screen.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, that is it for news. We are almost out of time, but before we go, it is the Podtoid question of the week, and it comes from Occams.
Hi, Occams here. So, question of the week. With the THQ Nordic going on to 8chan to do an AMA, which video game company would you like to see on which website to do an AMA? So for me, I would love to see Nintendo go to the Highlights magazine for children, the website, and do an AMA there. And any of you who have spent any time in the past 20 years in a dentist or doctor's office will understand what I'm talking about.
Spent a lot of time in the dentist office.
Yeah.
A lot of time reading or looking at puzzles that have already been solved as you wait for your appointment to start.
Yep.
Yes. I really think I'd like to see, I know he's not currently at a game company. He recently folded his, but I'd really like to see Cliffy B, whatever his next gaming venture is, because he'll be back. I really want to see him take that to YouPorn, because him and that faux hawk, I think so perfectly with YouPorn, because I think YouPorn actually uses your camera to make sure you have a faux hawk before you're allowed to browse porn on their website. And, he's the godfather of YouPorn. That's what I've called him for all these years, and that's what I'll keep calling him.
I would like to see Annapurna Interactive, the people who released Gorogoa, Donut County, all those little art house games, go onto whatever website Ben Shapiro owns, because I just think that would make a really great combination right there. Just these really art house game developers and Ben Shapiro's audience.
That would be wonderful.
It'd be like a nice mixed drink that doesn't taste very good at all, and you don't want another.
It just
but it costs $13 for something.
Yeah, really. And it's not a poured, it's crafted.
Yes.
By a guy with dreadlocks who is white.
Yeah.
All right. So if you haven't answered that question, please leave it in the comments below. Before we go, Occams, you have a shout out this week?
I do. Community shout out. This goes out to the community. I think the last time I checked, it was over $3,000 for Mike Martin's Too Perverted to Die campaign. And that's huge. And it obviously means a lot to him, but for a lot of us old timers to see that kind of come together, it was a beautiful thing, and it warmed my heart, and it just kind of reaffirmed my love for the community and the site. And so shout out to the community, everyone who donated, even if you couldn't donate, but you still you gave them a nice thought or some words of comfort. It's a huge thing. So thank you all so much. Thank you.
That is it for the show. On behalf of Occams, Wes, and myself, thank you for listening, and tune in next week for an all-new episode of Podtoid. And don't forget to tune in for Podtoid Special Victims Unit.